Welcome, dear friend, and thank you for choosing to spend your time in this quiet sanctuary. It is a true pleasure to have your company. This story was created with a gentle purpose of helping you find a moment of contentment to ease the mind and prepare you for a peaceful and restorative sleep. Should you find comfort here, a simple like a subscription to the channel or a kind comment is always deeply appreciated and helps our small haven grow. Tonight, we will be visiting the Chalk Vale, a place where the world softens at its edges. Prepare to be enchanted by its pale, yielding paths, the scent of night-blooming jasmine, and the unique and gentle art of gathering twilight into simple clay bowls. Step into this world of stillness and allow its profound calm to offer you a moment of true respite. Chapter 1. The Chalk Paths. It is a kindness, one of the world's quietest truths, that some places wait patiently for you to arrive. The Chalk Vale was one such place, and as Fendrel took his first steps into its gentle embrace, he felt the hurried pace of his own heart begin to slow, matching the unhurried rhythm of the deepening twilight. The path before him was a soft, pale ribbon winding through low, rounded hills, and the ground itself felt yielding, almost alive beneath the soles of his boots. Each step he took made a soft, crunching sound, a muffled chime that seemed to measure his journey not in distance, but in an increasing sense of peace. The air, which had been crisp on the ridge, was now soft and thick, carrying a delicate scent of damp earth and something sweetly floral, a fragrance that spoke of flowers preparing to greet the coming stars. The sky above was awash of deep indigo, its last vestiges of apricot and rose fading with a graceful slowness at the far western edge of the valley. A few shy stars had begun to prick the darkening canopy, their ancient light seeming to travel across the vastness of space just to land gently here. Fendrel paused, tilting his head back to better see them, and a faint, low hum seemed to rise from the very ground beneath him. It was a sound felt as much as it was heard, a resonant vibration that seemed to travel up through his legs and settle deep within his chest, a calm and frequency that felt like a quiet welcome. The soft sound of his own breathing mingled with the soundless turning of the stars and the deep, foundational hum of the vale itself. He followed the winding chalk path as it meandered deeper into the valley's basin, the low hills rising around him like sleeping giants, their slopes cloaked in a soft, low-growing foliage that absorbed the last of the light. It was here that the floral scent grew stronger, a warm and comforting fragrance like chamomile tea sweetened with a drop of honey. He spotted the source then, clusters of large bell-shaped flowers whose pale petals seemed to possess a soft luminosity of their own, a faint inner glow that was just beginning to stir as the darkness deepened. The very air around them felt warmer, charged with a gentle energy that invited one to linger and simply be. A curl of wood smoke, smelling of dried applewood and comfort, drifted on a current of air that was too slow to be called a breeze. It was more a sigh, a gentle exhalation from the valley itself. Following the scent with a quiet sense of homecoming, Fendrel saw a small cottage nestled in a hollow, built of smooth, pale wood that seemed to have grown from the earth it rested upon. A single lantern shone in its window, its light a serene, honeyed gold that did not pierce the darkness, but seemed to dissolve into it, creating a pool of gentle welcome. The chimney breathed its soft plume of smoke into the indigo air, a quiet signal of warmth and shelter. The door was unlocked, as he knew it would be. Such places did not have a need for locks and keys. He stepped inside, and the warmth of the small dwelling enveloped him like a soft blanket. The single room was simple and clean, furnished with a sturdy wooden table, a comfortable-looking chair, and a bed in the corner, upon which was a neatly folded quilt of muted greens and blues. The lantern on the table cast long, peaceful shadows that danced with the gentle flicker of its flame, and the air was still and warm, tasting faintly of the applewood fire that crackled softly in the small hearth. Fendrel unslung the simple pack from his shoulder, placing it carefully on the smooth, worn floorboards. He felt the last of the day's journey, the last of the world outside this veil slide away from him. He ran a hand over the smooth, cool wood of the tabletop, its surface polished by generations of quiet occupants. The gentle crackle of the fire was the only sound now, save for the ever-present distant hum of the veil, which felt even closer here, a soothing presence that seemed to fill the very foundations of the cottage. He walked to the single window and looked out into the night. The stars were brighter now, their light seeming to fall like a fine, cool dust upon the sleeping landscape. He could see the faint, pulsing glow of the luminous flowers in the near distance, their soft light a gentle echo of the starlight above. A feeling of profound rightness settled over him, a sense that he had not simply found a place to rest for the night, but had perhaps in some quiet and simple way come home. He drew the simple curtain across the window, enclosing himself in the cottage's golden warmth. The quilt on the bed was as soft and heavy as it looked, smelling faintly of lavender and clean air. As he lay down, the day did not replay itself in his mind. There were no thoughts of tomorrow. There was only the gentle crackle of the fire, the feeling of the soft quilt around him, and the deep, resonant hum of the veil, a lullaby sung by the very earth itself, promising a night of deep and untroubled rest. Chapter 2. The First Gathering. The next day passed in a soft blur of quiet observation, a slow and gentle unfolding of time. Fendrel explored the paths closest to his cottage, finding a small spring of clear, cool water and watching the slow, deliberate dance of fuzzy caterpillars on broad green leaves. When evening arrived again, bringing with it the same wash of deep indigo and the returning scent of night-blooming flowers, a gentle knock sounded on his door. Standing there was a woman with kind eyes and hair the color of spun moonlight. Her movements possessed of a slow and deliberate grace. She introduced herself simply as Olena, the veil's tender, her voice as soft as the moss that grew on the shady side of the pale wood trees. She held in her hands a simple clay bowl, its surface unadorned and smooth, cool to the touch. She offered it to Fendrel with a small, gentle smile, and with a simple gesture, invited him to follow. He took the bowl, its weight feeling solid and reassuring in his grasp, and followed her out into the deepening twilight. Olena did not speak as they walked, her presence itself a form of quiet communication, a shared understanding that the evening was a time for listening. The air grew cooler, and the resonant hum of the sunken bells seemed to swell gently, a constant, soothing vibration under their feet. Olena led him away from the main path into a meadow he had not discovered on his own. The field was filled with the luminous flowers he had seen the night before, the lumina blooms, and here their collective glow was a breathtaking sight. Hundreds of them pulsed with a soft internal light, a golden-white luminescence that rose and fell in a slow, synchronized rhythm, like the gentle breathing of the meadow itself. The light cast soft, dancing patterns on the ground, illuminating the blades of grass and the small, smooth pebbles in a serene, otherworldly glow. The air was thick with their warm, honeyed fragrance, a scent of pure contentment. She stopped in the center of the field and turned to him, her expression one of peaceful encouragement. She gestured to the bowl in his hands, then swept her other hand in a slow arc, indicating the fading twilight in the sky and the glowing blooms around them. Her meaning was clear without a single word spoken. She wanted him to simply hold the bowl, to be still, and to wait. It was an invitation not to do something, but to allow something to be done. Fendril found a comfortable spot on the soft earth, the ground still holding a faint warmth from the departed sun, and settled himself, holding the earthenware bowl in his lap. At first, nothing happened. He sat in the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the pulsing light of the flowers and the deep hum of the vale. He watched the last sliver of pink light disappear from the horizon, leaving the sky to the stars and the gentle glow of the blooms. His mind, so used to being busy, tried to wander, but the profound peace of the place gently reined it in. The constant soft rhythm of the pulsing light was mesmerizing, a visual lullaby that slowly quieted his thoughts until there was only the sensation of the cool air on his skin and the simple, solid feel of the bowl in his hands. And then he felt it, a change in the air around the bowl, a subtle thickening, a warmth that did not come from his own hands. He looked down and saw a faint, shimmering vapor beginning to coalesce within the vessel. It was as if the fading twilight, mixed with the soft luminescence of the lumina blooms, was being drawn from the air, a slow and gentle cascade of light itself. The vapor swirled slowly, gradually becoming denser, heavier, its shimmer taking on a more tangible golden quality. The feeling of profound peace in the air intensified, wrapping around him like a warm, comforting weight. He watched, mesmerized, as the light continued to settle. It was a process of impossible slowness, of a magic so gentle it felt like a fundamental law of nature, like dew forming on a leaf. The glowing vapor became a liquid, a thick, viscous substance that coated the bottom of the bowl like warm honey. It did not splash or ripple, but settled with a quiet grace, and from it a soft, warm light began to emanate, bathing his hands in a gentle golden glow. The warmth was not just a temperature, it was a feeling of deep, restorative calm that seeped into his palms and traveled up his arms. Olena, who had been sitting quietly nearby, nodded with a soft, knowing smile. She had not needed to instruct him, only to show him the way. The veil itself had been the teacher. Fendril looked from her serene face to the small miracle cradled in his hands. He had done nothing more than sit and be still, and in that stillness, he had been given a gift. He had gathered the light, or perhaps the light had gathered itself for him, a warm and living balm born from the quiet heart of the evening. Chapter 3. The Hum of Settling Light. In the evenings that followed, Fendril began to practice the art of gathering light on his own. He learned that it was an art of patience, of letting go. The more he tried to will the light into his bowl, the more ethereal and distant it became. It was only when he stilled his mind, focusing on the simple sensation of his own quiet breathing and the rhythmic pulse of the lumina blooms, that the light would answer his gentle invitation. Each session became a meditation, a slow descent into a state of profound tranquility where the boundary between himself and the quiet veil seemed to soften and dissolve. He found a small, secluded clearing of his own, a perfect circle of soft earth surrounded by a ring of the glowing flowers. It became his sanctuary, a place where the world consisted only of the deepening indigo sky, the warm honeyed scent of the blooms, and the patient empty space within his clay bowl. He discovered the subtle differences in the light he could gather. The light of early twilight was warm and golden, settling into a balm that felt like captured sunshine. The light of the deeper night, drawn from the distant silent stars, was cooler, silvery, and settled into a substance that shimmered with a quiet, pearlescent sheen. One evening, as he held a bowl half filled with the warm, golden light of the lumina blooms, he noticed something new. As the last wisps of light settled, a low, resonant hum began to emanate from the bowl itself. It was a sound that mirrored the deep, foundational hum of the sunken bells, but it was closer, more intimate. He lifted the bowl, feeling the vibration travel through the earthenware and into his palms. It was a gentle, soothing frequency, a thrum of pure contentment that seemed to speak directly to the quietest parts of him. The hum was the light's final exhalation, its song of coming to rest. This discovery changed his practice entirely. The gathering was no longer just a visual wonder. It was a symphony of the senses. He would sit, feeling the cool night air on his cheeks, inhaling the sweet, calming fragrance of the flowers, watching the gentle rhythm of their pulsing glow, and finally listening and feeling the soft, vibrant hum of the settling light. The process became a complete immersion, a gentle cocoon of sensation that left no room for stray thoughts or lingering concerns. His mind became as clear and open as the bowl he held. He learned to distinguish the different hums as well. The golden twilight balm hummed with a warm, steady tone, like a sleeping cat's purr. The silvery starlight balm produced a higher, more delicate frequency, a soft chime that sounded like distant, tiny bells. Sometimes he would gather both, letting the twilight settle first, followed by the starlight, creating a layered balm that swirled with silver and gold, its hum a harmonious chord of warmth and coolness, a perfect balance of earth and sky. He spent hours in his small clearing, long after his bowl was full, just holding the gently humming vessel and feeling its restorative vibrations. The warmth seeped into his bones, a gentle, healing heat that seemed to soothe the very marrow. It was a warmth that felt ancient and knowing, a physical manifestation of the veil's deep and abiding peace. He would feel the tension in his shoulders, a stiffness he was often unaware he carried, begin to melt away under the influence of that gentle, resonant hum. His breathing would deepen, becoming slow and effortless. He began to understand that the art of gathering light was not about collecting a magical substance. It was about creating a space for quiet to settle. The bowl was simply a vessel, a focal point, just as he was. The light, the warmth, the hum were all reflections of the peace that was already present in the veil, waiting to be noticed. He was not making magic. He was simply learning to listen to the gentle, magical song the world was always singing. And in that listening, he found a stillness so profound it felt like the very center of his being. The world outside the clearing, outside the veil, faded into a distant memory. His entire existence was reduced to these simple, beautiful elements: the soft earth beneath him, the fragrant air around him, the pulsing light before him, and the warm, humming peace he held carefully, gratefully, in his own two hands. Chapter 4. A Bowl of Starlight. One evening, as Fendril and Olenna sat together in a comfortable silence, each holding their own gently glowing bowl, Olenna spoke. Her voice was a soft murmur, barely disturbing the quiet air between them. She did not tell a story in the usual sense, with a beginning and an end, but instead shared a fragment of an old song that the Veil Keepers had passed down through generations. The sky, she hummed, her voice a reedy, gentle sound, shares its quietest thoughts with the patient earth. She said nothing more, letting the simple, peaceful idea hang in the air between them, as tangible and as beautiful as the collected light in their bowls. The words settled deep within Fendril. He looked from the warm, earthy glow in his lap to the vast, star-dusted canopy above, the sky's quietest thoughts. He had gathered the soft glow of the blooms and the fading warmth of the sun, but he had never tried to listen to the sky alone. A new sense of gentle purpose filled him. He felt a desire to create a bowl filled only with the pure, ancient light of the stars, to hold a piece of the night's vast, silent wisdom in his hands. That night, he chose the largest, widest bowl he had, its clay the color of a pale mushroom. He bypassed his usual clearing of lumina blooms, venturing instead to the highest, most open point in the vale, a gentle, rounded hilltop where the sky felt impossibly close. There were no flowers here to add their warm glow, only the soft, springy turf and the immense, silent dome of the heavens. The air was cooler here, cleaner, and the hum of the sunken bells was a distant, foundational murmur. He settled himself in the center of the hilltop, placed the wide bowl before him, and began to wait. The process was different here. The starlight was not as eager as the twilight. It was a shy, subtle light, a delicate and ancient luminescence that had traveled for an unimaginable time to reach this quiet place. It required a deeper stillness from him, a more profound patience. He quieted his breathing until it was a shallow, effortless rhythm. He focused his gaze on a single distant constellation, letting its steady, silvery light fill his vision. He extended a sense of open, gentle welcome, an invitation without words to the quiet thoughts of the sky. For what felt like a long time, the bowl remained dark and empty. He felt no disappointment, only a deep sense of peace in the act of waiting itself. He was a small, quiet presence on a sleeping hill under a canopy of silent, watching stars. It was enough. And then, as if it had finally deemed him patient enough, the first shimmer appeared. It was a faint, silvery vapor, as delicate as a spider's thread that trickled almost imperceptibly over the rim of the bowl. Another followed, and then another, a slow, silent cascade of pure starlight. He watched for hours as the great wheel of the constellations turned slowly overhead. The light gathered with an impossible slowness, each drop a tiny captured star. The substance that formed was unlike any he had gathered before. It was not warm and thick, but cool and surprisingly light, a liquid that looked like polished obsidian infused with 1,000 tiny shimmering specks of silver. It did not glow with a steady light, but seemed to swirl with its own internal galaxy, a miniature night sky held within the simple clay walls of the bowl. As the first hint of dawn began to touch the eastern horizon with a soft dove-gray light, the bowl was finally full. He lifted it carefully, its coolness a surprising contrast to the warmth he was used to. It did not hum with a low, earthy resonance. Instead, it was utterly silent. The light within it did not pulse. It simply was, a steady, unwavering, and ancient presence. Holding it, Vendrell felt a sense of awe, of connection to the vast, silent expanse of time and space. He felt the immense, peaceful loneliness of the stars, and in it, he found a strange and beautiful companionship. He carried the bowl of starlight back to his cottage as the world was awakening, the soft gray light illuminating the pale chalk paths. The substance did not fade with the coming day. It remained a perfect, captured piece of the night, a swirling galaxy of silent light. He placed it on his simple wooden table, and its cool, steady presence seemed to fill the small room with a profound sense of calm, a quiet reminder of the vast and gentle mysteries that lie just beyond the edge of the waking world. Chapter 5. The Warmth Within. The days and nights in the Chalk Vale began to blend into a single seamless flow of gentle time, marked only by the changing quality of the light. Vendrell no longer felt like a visitor. The soft crunch of the chalk paths under his feet sounded like his own footsteps. The scent of the lumina blooms felt like the valley's own familiar breath, and the deep, resonant hum of the sunken bells felt like the steady beating of his own contented heart. He moved with the slow, unhurried rhythm of the place, his presence woven into its quiet tapestry. He had become a part of the Vale's gentle equilibrium. He continued to gather the light, not from a sense of duty or practice, but as a simple, joyful expression of his connection to the Vale. He filled bowls with golden twilight, with silvery starlight, and with soft, warm bloomlight. His cottage shelves were lined with them, each one a glowing, humming testament to a peaceful evening spent in quiet communion. They filled his small home with a soft, serene light and a constant, soothing vibration, making the simple space feel like a sanctuary of profound and unshakable calm. One evening, as he sat outside his cottage, he held a small bowl of freshly gathered twilight, its warmth seeping into his hands. He watched the real twilight fade from the sky, the colors softening and dissolving into the deep indigo of night. He looked down at the captured light in his hands, its golden glow, a perfect echo of the sky that had just passed. He felt its warmth, not just on his skin, but as a sensation radiating from deep within his own chest, a gentle, restorative peace that felt as if it originated from his own center. In that quiet moment, a simple and profound understanding blossomed within him. The Vale had not given him something he lacked. It had simply shown him what was already there, the warmth, the light, the peace. He had not been collecting it from the world around him, so much as recognizing it within himself. The quiet art of gathering light was a mirror, a gentle practice that allowed the inner stillness to become visible, to become tangible, a warm and glowing balm he could hold in his own two hands. A deep sense of gratitude washed over him, as gentle and as encompassing as the evening air. Gratitude for Olena's quiet guidance, for the patient beauty of the lumina blooms, for the steadfast humming presence of the sunken bells, and gratitude for himself, for allowing himself to be still enough to listen. The deep peace he felt was not a temporary state, a feeling borrowed from this magical place. It was a part of him now, as fundamental as his own breath. He knew with a quiet certainty that he would carry this warmth, this settled light, with him always, wherever he might go. He closed his eyes, holding the warm bowl against his chest. He could feel its gentle hum resonating with the quiet, steady rhythm of his own heartbeat. The boundary between the two seemed to disappear. The warmth of the light and the warmth of his own life force were one and the same. He was not just holding the light, he was the light. He breathed in the cool, fragrant night air and breathed out a slow, soft sigh of pure contentment, his exhale dissolving into the perfect, peaceful silence of the Chalk Vale.